Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them, and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. So, I quit covering New Mutants when Chris Claremont left, and I decided I was gonna go back, but I'm covering it in spurts, which means I'm covering sections at a time. So this is my second video. So the first one's covered 55 through 58. And now we're going to cover just the Follow the Mutants chapters, which are 59, 60, and 61 from 1987. And just then cover the next part. We're sort of just going to keep up with them. Now, I was sort of still buying the New Mutants here and there when they were coming out, but I wasn't really interested in it, and I sort of checked out. And then after Follow the Mutants, I completely the Follow the Mutants are the last time that I got them. Now, I did eventually go and get the trades that are associated covering Louise Simonson and Bret Blevins run. And so I'm going to, in case this is your first one and you didn't look at the other one, I do have a New Mutants playlist. So the last video is in there. So Chris Claremont, real quick, had left because he was going to do Excalibur. X-Men were twice a month during the summer. And then he was going to take on Wolverine. Wolverine was coming. So he was writing a lot. So the New Mutants, I think, had grown, and you could see that he just didn't have the love for New Mutants anymore that he sort of had. So Louise Simonson took over. Now, Bret Blevins is the artist. Now, I said in the previous video, and I'm going to say it again, the problem isn't that Bret Blevins is a great artist. Okay, now, stupid little silly old me at that time I was in 7th grade did not appreciate Bret Blevins. That is not his fault, but that was a fault of a lot of the kids that were growing up in that time. The art was just too weird. Now, Bret Blevins would have done great doing things like Swamp Thing at DC Comics, or Doctor Strange at Marvel, or Ghost Rider, even Batman, I think, would have done really well with Bret Blevins, just because of the type of art he has. And I don't think his art is very well with kids. Now, he does his darndest. I mean, the art looks gorgeous, but I will admit to you that little me just did not understand this. So, all right. So, we're going to start here and just go through all 3 issues. I'm not going to really be reading along like I normally do, because we're going to try and get these done all 3 within a half hour, because one of them is double sized. Okay, so the New Mutants come in. Again, I have a playlist if you want to get caught up here. Following Bird Brain here, Fang and Claw is the title. Now, Tom Ozakowski is, my God, he goes from wordy Chris Claremont to wordy Louise Simonson, and still doing the X-Men. So one of the best letters in the business, top 3. Him and John Workman and Kevin Kline are just absolutely bangers. So Louise Simonson, Bret Blevins, Terry Austin, one of the greatest inkers of all time. So we basically have a lot of continuity left for people that, when they read, to try and keep the, they try to keep the colors the same, the editorials the same, the X-Men's old inker. So Louise Simonson and Bret Blevins are the new people in it. So, all right. So they're bringing food to his Bird Brain's people here, and or Bird Boy or something, and you see the other animal creatures there, and the New Mutants are surrounded here, and they're like, I think they want to eat us. And you can see Illyana's ready to run away here, and she says, I think they want to eat us. So now, this dude here is evil. He's the animator, Dr. Animus, of course. He's the one that created all these creatures. This guy is a jerk in a gazillion different ways that you could possibly think. He is the evil henchman for this story, and we'll get to see his origin in a bit. So he is here experimenting on these creatures, and he hates them. But he continues doing it. He's not a fan of his own creatures here, and this one's trying to get his attention here. And so he sees that there's these kids here, and he's like kill, he's like telling his animals, the animates here, to kill the strangers. And so he's like realizes, hey, they're still alive. What the heck are they alive? And then he looks closer here and sees that Bird Brain has returned. He's like, oh my god, he has sinned by bringing these kids in. And then he's like, I do need new blood. And so he's like gonna look and see who's the kids are, and then he of course gets their what a computer. And he has the New Mutants in there. So anyway, you can see he also works for Cameron Hodge here. It is revealed. And so he tells them, hey, do not endanger right security. The right is what they're speaking of. And so I'll inform you when it's clear. And then he leaves, throwing that little creature out on the floor. Like I said, he's super evil. And so down he goes. Why he's dressed like that is so silly, but I love it because that's the beauty of comic books. And so they communicate with Doug, and he talks to them, and of course they want food because this guy's been starving them here. So he takes these things and throws the food down there so that they can eat. Of course, a couple bags is probably not enough for everybody here. And of course, after that, they're gonna try to eat them. But Bird Brain is, which is now his code name instead of Bird Boy, is gonna get in the way there. So, of course, the only human being that they have encountered is the animator. So, of course, they're like, humans are terrible, evil, and they want to kill him. And of course, Rain, who's Wolfsbane here, has sort of a crush on Doug, and she's not gonna let him hurt him, and so she stands between him and Doug and the Bird Boy, and you can see that Bird Brain is happy. So Warlock and oh my goodness gracious, Sunspot are returning. They were out with what was that series? The Fallen Angels. So they're returning after that, and of course they're like, oh my gosh, Magneto's gonna be so mad. So anyway, Warlock kind of gets them in here. This actually looks very similar to Arthur Adams here. And they come in, and the mansion security comes through, and of course Magneto is right there. I said Magneto, not Magneto. I love this humor era. Like I said, this sort of went over my head as a kid. I should have loved it, but I didn't. Magneto's actually happy to see them. They're happy. Warlock wants to see his friends, and he says, "Hey, the New Mutants are gone." And Magneto's like, "Well, no, I wondered why they didn't come down when the alarms rang out. So they now know that they're not there." And so, speaking of alarms, the alarms in that island are going there. So they're all like, "Oh crap!" So of course it's the animator. So they're trained with food to obey. So they're trying to they're doing what they're being told. And so what is happening is it's a maze that has to they have to survive, and if they survive then they get to be like I don't know, continue on, and if it's like survival of the fittest in a way, it's what is. And so Birdbrain had escaped because he knew he couldn't survive that. So all right. And so what they're gonna try to do is save the animal people, and then you can see some of the dangerous, horrible things that are being done in there, and you can see all these terrible traps here and these poor creatures just, and you can see that Rain is just taking it bad. Like I said, this guy is just so evil here. And so they continue here, and here comes these three here. And so we have a brief battle here. We're going to have a couple of brief battles throughout these three issues here. And so the neat thing about battles is it allows me to just simply narrate. Now, this here, normally her illusions are like all pink, but somehow this one got colored and it's showing the animator here, which is what they are so afraid of here. And so Cannibal's coming to her rescue, but he is snarled by a net. And the net is, it says here, keep back, the net's hot. And when he touches it, it gets him. And then he's hit in the head by the animator here. And so he tells them to go into the maze and get the ones that have been unfortunate enough to survive and take him into the laboratory. Like I said, this dude is one of the most evil, like Louise Simonson. If it wasn't because of the way he's dressed, it's you know, part of me was like I didn't take him. I don't know. It was just weird. Like I said, it's not Bret Blevins' fault. I want to stress that my problem isn't Bret Blevins, just that I just don't think it was suited for this. But alas, he drew it, so we're gonna go on. But it's hard for me to take him seriously with this. But he, like I said, is a evil jerk. Anyway, this dude, like I said, he's crazy, and he's bringing forth the traitors. These are the ones that didn't obey, and he speaks here. It says Birdbrain. He's upset that he has a name like it's equal or something. He's like, you don't have a name. You're you know, a creation. And so look at Rain, and I do like the expression here. Look how angry they look. You can see the concern also when he draws some of the creatures here. I mean, he really goes out giving expression here. He doesn't like being interrupted and has this guy hit her here. And look at these, everybody here on their eyes. It's just so tragic. Now, as an adult, you read this and you're like, oh my God, what a jerk. And look at how he treats poor Birdbrain here. And so, and if you think this is dark, wait till the next issue. It gets even worse. I mean, Louise Simonson was Chris Claremont's mentor. You can see him here ripping out the uniform here. And so he's like, take these monsters away and destroy them. And so the worst is yet to come. And so, yes, it definitely is. One of the things about the Fall of the Mutants stories, so here comes the next one, but in all three titles, so Louise Simonson had two, X Factor and the New Mutants. X Factor, of course, was dealing with Apocalypse and Apocalypse ships, and then the realization that Angel had now turned into death and he was alive. The X-Men, of course, Storm gets her powers dealing with the adversary and Forge, and then eventually sacrificing themselves and dying. Of course, they're brought back at the very end. And so then the New Mutants. So all three dealt with incredible evil and incredible just odds, but rereading these and looking at these, I think the New Mutants got the worst of it. Yes, that includes the X-Men, because the X-Men at least came back. These New Mutants are about to get put. I don't know whether Louise Simonson just doesn't like them or whatever, but he put them through a ringer, and we're gonna have a death. Yes, one of them is actually going to die and stays dead for a very long time. So, eventually I think they bring him back. I don't know. I haven't been reading the current incarnation of X-Men, so you tell me. But all right. So, here's the animator again, super angry. Suspended animation is their title, same as the previous issue with the same credits here. Just look at him, just so angry and so mean and evil, and how dare him escape. I'm the master here. So of course he's like, friends. He's like, you have no friends. You're an animal, and then hits him here. He wants to just destroy him. He's just a hateful person, and Sam is gonna try and do something, but he can't get off this net here, and so all this thing here is happening, and then Hodge. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Hodge. Danny. Mirage uses her power, and that is what he fears the most. And so he's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here? I can explain." So what happens is the right got him to do those experiments, but he decided to kind of do his own thing that he's not sort of supposed to be doing here. And of course, they're confused. Who are they? Well, because they haven't been reading X Factor. If they read X Factor, they know what the heck is going on here. And so he disappears and realizes it's an illusion, and that of course is his greatest fear. And so look at him, um just crazy here. He just wants a slave race. And look at this, throws this poor creature, and you see the splat. He's just so careless, and just one of the few characters that reading him makes you hate him right away. Like, what a freaking jerk this dude is. And so he basically is just, like I said, just pure evil. So ultimately, what the right wanted him to is, it's an improvement. Like, somehow these things are going to improve on the current human race. But what really is, he's so, in theory, what's supposed to happen is you take the attributes of certain animals and try to pass that to try to create a better person, a better soldier, those super soldiers, by taking certain traits. But you don't really mix an animal with a person and then hope that it's going to sort of work here. So this reminds me of that parrot from Aladdin here. So anyway, so we're gonna kind of move on here, because it's a lot of talky talk about how evil he is, and so Doug's gonna try and talk to them about what's going on, but he won't listen. And of course she hits Doug, which of course pisses Rain off, so now she's gonna fight. And Birdbrain's like, no, because of course Rain and him are friends here, same color. Wish we would have used a different color here. So this guy is evil, but it's not his fault, because that's sort of how he's been bred and treated. So all right. And so he's got them in. He's gassing magic, so she can't teleport and get away here. And so, Cypher's trying to talk to Wolfsbane, says, "In your wolf form, you're the strongest of us. Switch to it. Test the glass." And she's like, "No, I can't. Not before those creatures. They're horrid and evil. In my wolf form, I have such evil thoughts. I want to kill them. I don't want to ever be a wolf again." So, it's just very interesting here. Um, and so look at this. He has him destroy Lot G that he was growing. Just like I said, just pure evil. And it's kind of just weird because even Apocalypse wasn't made to be this evil here. And then um he takes the parrot thing and throws it to the other things. Just like I said, he cares nothing for anything here, beating him up. The New Mutants just look absolutely dreadful here. Just um pure evil. I just can't think of another word. Anyway, Doug here is assuring her that she's a really good person, that it doesn't matter what she believes. And of course, we've got Magic here, who is going to go to a very dark turn coming up. And Follow the Mutants really is going to lead to that dark turn because it's already in her. And Follow the Mutants, this thing with the animator is really going to bring this evil um to the surface here. So just know that this is coming here because you can look at her and um they're like, I wonder where Magneto is. He must know we're gone, and we left lots of clues back at the school. Magneto's smart. He helped me once when I was in trouble in Limbo. He'll find us, and then he'll use his magnetic power to rip this place apart. So she does have some faith, but he hasn't started kind of looking for them, but I like this part here. Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted Youngsters. Magneto School of Missing Students would be a better name. So, he, they're gone, and so he's kind of wondering where they could have been. So, he's going to go to the Hellfire Club to locate the students, using like their own type of cerebro. Uh, and so he tells Warlock and Sunspot that they are to remain there. So, meanwhile, they go up to go look at the clues. So these two are gonna figure out where the heck they are. So you can see they figured it out. They got a map and off they go. And they left Magneto a letter, but of course when he goes, he blows it out. So, all right, we are continuing here, and he is just destroying everything, and he's getting another interruption, and of course, it is Hodge, and he says, "Hey, we noticed you ran a computer check on the identities of several mutant children," and so and so basically, the thick of it is he warns him about disobeying the right and performing research other than eliminating genetic mutant or mutations here. And of course, there he was back in the day before all this. And so of course he says, "Hey, back in the day when you were doing research that you were being paid for, you were doing some other research." And of course, he broke some ethics, ended up in jail, and so he's like, "Yep," and I'm so grateful. That's why I'm doing what you're wanting done. And so he basically says, "I am not lying," and you can see him kind of taking his little hat away and all that kind of stuff. And so he says, "Yep." And so Hodge is like, "I don't believe him. Let's go to that island." So Hodge doesn't even believe it. And again, I do love how great he is at expressions, and I am so sad that I was not able to love Bret Blevins back then. So that is my fault. And so here goes Warlock and Sunspot not wearing jackets even though it's freezing cold here. So So the animator confronts the New Mutants, revealing that the Animates were going to be a slave race for humanities. But of course, he knows Hodge won't like it. So that's why he gene spliced for Fearness, and what he's going to steal the New Mutants' powers to make mutant animate hybrids for the world. And so they're going to get. He's going to have Birdbrain killed because he's rebellious, and so and so a lot of talky talk. Anyway, they're off they go here. But Doug is eventually going to convince them that they're going to that the animator is going to kill them as well. And so here they are in that maze. All of a sudden, that's Crash. They're afraid of that maze, and so the New Mutants are out. And so here they are, and this is just really awesome. And again, you would think seventh grader would like this, but it just looks so different from the other comic books that were coming on during this time, and Mark Silvestri is out on the X-Men, Walter Simonson's out on X Factor. He just looks like odd man out during this time. John Romita Jr. is in Daredevil. Let's see. Todd McFarlane is in Hulk. And boy, that book was looking beautiful. So Jim Lee, I think, was in Punisher War Journal. So Bret Blevins just didn't fit. And so I just couldn't appreciate it. But looking at it, it's just beautiful. And I wish I would have liked it, because I never would have dropped this book, but I did. And then if you think this is weird or like whatever, wait till Inferno comes. So anyway, New Mutants and the other animates fight. And so here Illyana teleports and tries to call Magneto, but of course Magneto is not there. And she's like, Mother of God. So she comes back and grabs a bat. just so causing them their fears here, just doing all these things here. So Doug is fighting, and he's he's good at computers here. He's trying to stop the self-destruction, and of course he did it. And they look at Magic here. And so, but it's not over, because the right has arrived. And look at Cameron Hodge, the New Mutants, I presume. And they're like, who the heck is he? And of course, they blast the New Mutants. So, they noticed that he was trying to escape. Of course, Hodge is like, why can't you ever obey? You weren't supposed to create these things. And he punches him. And so he wants the New Mutants sedated and wants the animates destroyed here. So they do. Oh, his poor little helper here. So Hodge is also incredibly evil, but that other guy is just the worst. So evil to evil. So when it said, hey, it gets worse, they weren't kidding, because we're gonna keep going here, because we still have one more issue left to go here. This is kind of the part where it's just the fight, so I can just kind of move along here. But you can see Birdbrain is trying to rescue Rain and Cypher here. And so he tells the animates, you have to fight, and help them. So they are helping the New Mutants. And here we go. And look who shows up. And Sunspot and Warlock are there, and they help join the fight. And they're going to he wants Warlock and him to join, but There's some shots in there, so he has to stay down here. But the goal is to get them to, because he doesn't have any powers except for the uh, language thing. So he's basically useless in a fight here while the New Mutants are there. But here he comes here, he's got his little gun, and you can see here that they're really trying to highlight it with the color. And of course, Doug jumps in front of it, and goodness gracious, you can see the blood right there, which normally you just didn't show. Like they would show, you just normally didn't see this here. I remember looking at this going, oh, this is different. But Doug falls, and now you can go by the cover. So I mean, the cover sort of tells you what happens. And so Birdbrain does it, and he's like, he's like, don't be mad, Rain. I'll never do it again. Meaning, but Doug dies. And I know they bring him back, and he's something with Apocalypse, or he's Revelation or something like that. Don't know, don't care, don't read it. Hodge knows that the battle's sort of lost, so he's like, let's go and blow this island away. And so they start dropping bombs, and here goes Warlock and Sunspot, but there's this creature here that sort of stops the airplane, but of course we know that Hodge is not dead because he's going to show up somewhere. And here's the animator just trying to still kill Birdbrain, but he fights back and beats him, and Rain's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And they're like, oh no, and all of a sudden they just noticed Doug. And of course they go to flip him up, and he is dead. And of course, poor Warlock, his friend, and Rain, his wannabe girlfriend, and just very touching. This was probably one of the best. And she takes the animator here, and she is going to shoot him. And they're like, please don't do it. You know, we don't do that. So she's sending him basically to hell. And he's going to give him an eternal, which I think is actually inappropriate. But look at her. Look at the teeth. Look how she's drawn. My God. And just think, seventh grade me just thought this was horrible here. And so he's hungry. He's going to eat one of them. And they're like, no, you know, we can't do that. And so the animator says, you know, we're not people. We don't even have clothes. And of course, Sam here tells them that the name isn't in the clothes that make you human, but choices which animates made when they chose to help save the New Mutants. And tells them that they have chosen what they'll be, and they've earned the right to choose their own name, as what Doug would have wanted. And so now we're going to go to the last issue, Truth and Consequences. And so 61 will be our last issue today. And then we'll catch up on the next video, and that'll have the New Mutants all caught up here to where I am with X-Factor and X-Men here. And you can see here that the New Mutants are leaving the Animates. So, all right, Our Way is our title. Illyana is pissed, and we're gonna see just how pissed here. And Bret Blevins really does a great work. Look at how she looks, and I wish I would have appreciated this more. Same team except for the colorist. Bill Ray is the colorist here. So, all right. One of the right is still there, and he goes to throw a weapon, but it doesn't work. And look at this. Illyana has had enough, and she grabs him, teleports him and Sam hits the thing, but he's invulnerable when he's flying, and she gets ready for just takes this guy here and is like, we are going to torture this dude. She has given in completely to her dark child and throws him to the techno demons. Remember, the hell or limbo got uh, uh changed by the techno organic virus here. Of course, they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, this is what I am. We're not, look at this, she just looks so freaking evil here. And they're like, you can't do this, you have to be better. And so, is this what you are? So she changes kind of back. They grab Doug. um we have to make the world better for everybody. It's what Doug died for. It's what he would have wanted. And so, believe it or not, they left him dead for quite a long time. So it was in the mid 90s. They did some kind of story with him and Warlock. But anyway, all right, so they go to the mansion here, and of course, Magneto is going to the Hellfire Club and sees the destruction that ended up in New York City, and gets in there, changes, uses his powers, goes in, and of course they're all watching the all the stuff happening between Dallas with the X-Men and the X Factor here. And so he, of course, recognizes Cyclops and Marvel Girl. And so, of course, he recognizes Colossus here. And they put Doug here in the infirmary. And they are unaware that the X-Men are about to die. Here's the different incantations of the X-Men. And, missing Professor Xavier. And he's like, I wish Magneto would have come home. And they're like, he's at the Hellfire Club consorting with villains. And he's looking for us, isn't he? And they're like, we should call him and tell him what happened to Doug. And so they cover him up. And you can see Illyana's like, man, the price we paid for this. She's putting a lot of faith in Magneto, but we're gonna see something happening here. Rain, of course, has guilt, and she's like, the one that should have died. And so the New Mutants are gonna try to catch. She's running away. She falls, and he catches them. They're just so sad, and it's being shown here. And a lot of talk about a lot of things here, but Sunspot never really cared for Magneto, and so he isn't. He thinks he's a monster, and that's what she kind of showed using her power, and so again, it's all part of having to deal with Sunspot. And of course they now are going to watch the X-Men die, and she realizes that her brother is dead. And he's like, I teleported him there, it's all my fault. So now someone who gave in sorta is now going to have even more guilt. Magneto comes in, he is so upset, irate, and he's like, where's Doug? And they're like, he's dead. And he is so sad, and he's so angry because they disobeyed him and said, if you hadn't disobeyed me, if you hadn't done all this, he would still be alive. What do I have to do to keep you people safe? And he basically says, do I have to, here he says, I forbade you all to go out. You didn't listen to me, you people. And so they're like, we're not dolls, we're people with powers, gifts to use for good or ill will. He's like, no, we are absolutely not going to go through this. I'm in charge here. and he's like, I don't have any say. And he's like, the X-Men, he says, the X-Men are adults choosing to endanger themselves protecting humans. They can take care of themselves. And I'm the one that has to tell Doug's parents that their son is dead. And so now look at Magic. She's had enough, and her faith in Magneto is done. And now she is going to give in completely into the dark child persona. And so the New Mutants are going to sort of leave Magneto alone. Look at who she comes with, and look, she is just, the death of her brother and the death of her friend are just too much for her. It is incredible, and she's like, I was wrong about you. You're the one who should be dead, and she misses here. And they're trying to stop her, but she is absolutely not gonna have it here. And she leaves. And so everybody just sort of leaves Magneto with Doug here. Just in case I didn't say why I say Magneto, it's magnet with an O, Magneto, not Magneto, because it's not a magnet, it's a Magneto. So it's not my fault. Stan Lee doesn't know how to speak English. Anyway, so the New Mutants leave him with Doug. They went to go check on Illyana. They really fear that things are coming to an end for the New Mutants. And Magneto's like, they just don't understand this. And of course, they're going to go see Illyana, who's up in the attic here crying. And you see Rain. She is going to hug her and tell her they can't afford to try to be normal kids anymore. And so they all take new costumes and decides, hey, we are going to be heroes. And you can see that it's completely separate. These are not the same costumes, I believe, that they had. And so next issue, Playing with Fire. So there we go. We did the entire Fall of the Mutants. Took me, went over maybe 10 more minutes than I wanted to, but that's okay. So New Mutants 59, 60, and 61. Louise Simonson and Bret Blevins with Terry Austin. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.